Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Dragon Slayer: The Legend of Heroes. In the last part we explored most of the country in Norland and did a lot of the plot here in the process, and now we're back at Port Nors because I forgot to get the Sun Key at the end of the last part. Whoops! Looky who's here. It's Prince Evan. Carlos, I brought the Sunstone. Put it in the key. Hey, it fits the setting exactly. What's written here? I can't believe it. This is the Royal Norland Crest. I've seen it once before. Yep, this key really is yours. I didn't mean to doubt you, Prince Evan. Here. And now we got the Sun Key. I forgot to keep that footage in at the end of the last part, so here we are. Thankfully, we didn't actually do anything in Cave Chris at the end of the last part because you would not be able to get far in the dungeon without this. Whoops. I would add that footage into the last part, but I already hit the render button, so I'm like, let's just go back here. So now we're actually in Cave Chris, if you forgot where this is for some reason. This is just northeast of Samantha's house. I added the last part entering here. And this dungeon's not too big, but what it makes up for, what it lacks in size, it makes up for in its annoying enemy. Notice I said enemy, not enemies, because there's only one enemy type here, the Grimgoon. 980 HP, so kind of beefy, and they can put out some decent damage. What's really annoying about them is, because I still have Sonya on the Steel Rod, she's not going to be doing much in here because they are completely immune to instant death. And I think you can tell when an element or an effect is completely negated by the enemy type based on whether or not it says it's useless or not, because otherwise it usually just says they avoided the attack or it missed or things of that nature. We're going to be fighting a lot of them, and you need the Sun Key there to get anywhere. I actually started doing commentary on this part and then realized, wait, when did I get the Sun Key? Oh, I forgot to get that footage, huh? Whoops. Thankfully I had it recorded. I just forgot to, put it in the last video. So the main things you're going to be picking up in here is mostly a lot of Doom armor, which is the next step up for everyone. If memory serves, and I say that because this game kind of blends together in my memory when it comes to what I did where, even though I remember the exact note-for-note way the game progresses. I believe I put that all on Sonya because at the moment she has the lowest defense on top of her HP, so you gotta make sure she takes less damage to make that HP mean more. The Grimgoons, notably though, can help you a little bit around here for cash, even outside of the money they drop, because they have a chance to drop steel armors, and since we're going to be upgrading to Doom males pretty quickly here, it's really easy to just get those and sell them and get a lot of extra cash. Not that money... Well, no, money's still going to be very useful moving forward, but we're getting to the point now where the level grinding you might need to do is just going to outpace any kind of money problems you could have. I guess you might want to put the Doom Blade on Sonya while you're in here, now that I think about it, just to take better advantage of her particular attack stat, but again, not exactly a lot to worry about. The Grimgoons can be annoying, but they're mostly annoying just because of how many there are, rather than the actual fight difficulty. And not for nothing, I appreciate this game's dungeon design in some weird ways. Like, I appreciate them having ones that are just some blitzes through some mazes with a bunch of enemies. But then you got stuff like the Rockberg door, you got one or two down the line that are a little different. Most of it is just standard dungeon crawling, but there's some stuff here that's a little interesting. And then we got a speed ring, and I forgot to mention earlier, we got a guard ring in an earlier chest. The guard ring I put on Sonya, that raises the equipped person's defense by 50, and the speed ring raises the person who uses its speed by 10. There aren't many more accessories in the game beyond these three. There's only one I'm aware of, and we're going to get that later this part if memory serves. But up here, we have the final treasure chest for the area, and we got Doom's Eye. We are now good to leave this dungeon. So you can walk out. In fact, I recommend if you're lower on levels to do that. But I want to warp out. The thing is, you can't use Warp Wings or Warp 2 to leave dungeons. You can only use Warp Coils or Warp 1. A little weird. But I guess it's not too big of a deal, because I recommend having Warp 1 and 2 on your party anyway, even if on separate members, just to have the variance. But now we're good to warp over to Port Nors. I do find the way the game lays out its Warp 2 list a little weird. It is in order from start of the game to late game in the order of all the towns, all the one-off houses, and all the dungeons. But there's something about that my brain can just never quite comprehend what goes where. So there's a lot of times where I'm just kind of scrolling through it, trying to figure out where I'm supposed to go. Alright, and from Port Nors, we just want to go south along the coast to reach the capital. And here we got some new enemies, some crushers. They're meant to hit you hard. I'm kind of over-leveled for them at this point, so they're not going to do a lot. And I do not recommend coming here earlier unless it's to mark it for your Warp 2 spell list.
My master wants Doom's eyes. Do you have it?
We have it, but not for you. We want to see the king.
Then you must pass. Go to my master. No tricks from you. The Reavers are watching. My master awaits. Be gone.
If you came here earlier, either that guard would try to lock you in, or you'd be mobbed by all these enemies, and good luck at that point. Not worth attempting. Thankfully, once you're actually here for the plot reasons, nothing will attack you. And once we're up here, we're up to the king. So we finally meet. You're behind all the misery. Ha! I am indeed the one. Geras is my name. And have you brought me Doom's Eye? I have it. Release the king now. Don't tell me what to do. The eye is for Naja, you fools. Not so fast. Don't waste my time. I will have Doom's Eye now. Don't listen to him. That's a sacred Norland treasure. The possessor of the eye could gain great power, enough to destroy the whole world. And this fiend seems to know its secrets. You speak as a dog. I'll shut you up. Wait a sec. I'll give you the eye. Now you're talking. Pass it here. Naja will be pleased. Very well. Doom's Eye is thrown at Geras. You clumsy idiots! Look who's talking. Now's your chance, King Magnus. I know when it's time to make a royal exit. You seeker slave. You can't escape me. Time to fight, Geras, if you dare. What a joke. Do you peasants hate life so much? What fun it will be to rend you. For Naja! Alright, we got Geras here, and on his first turn, he's actually going to summon 2 Thunderhounds. You want to target the Thunderhounds first just because you get the experience for killing them if memory serves, but also they'll just be excess damage. You want to get what buffs and debuffs you can as soon as you can in this fight, namely hasting up your main attacker, like in my case Giles, or casting Power, or Slow, or Leech to lower Geras' stats themselves, but then you want to get Calm as fast as you can going. Because if you don't, he'll cast Shock 5, which does around 500 to 600 damage. Or, forget which waste variant it is. I want to say it's waste 3, which will do around 200 HP to you, and then heal him for that amount. Once you get the debuffs going and Calm going, you should just be able to hammer into him, especially if he leaches his defense away, and he'll probably go down pretty quickly. By and large, though, if you want to have a spare weapon around for Sonya, you're going to want to do it for boss fights at this point in the game, because the Steel Rod's not going to be doing much. And because you're probably going to be using Calm in boss fights, she's not going to be able to get much magic in, so, It is kind of the unfortunate thing about the game. Calm is so effective at making bosses less of a threat that it makes casting yourself pretty pointless. Do you really think this is the end? Dream on. I am but a tool in this game. Wait till you meet Naja. Okay. And we get a Thunder Rod. That has a chance of costing Shock 3 when used as a weapon in battle. With the fall of Geras, the monsters flee Norland. The kingdom is secured. Yay! And we get a decent chunk of experience for that. And so ends Chapter 3, Lost King. And thus begins Chapter 4, Mystic Myths. My brother, you're a hero for saving Norland. And look at this gross thing. Ugh, get it away from me. I guess we'll take Doom's Eye then. Thanks, Magnus. And here's something for you and your country. We 3 brothers can run Norland together. I don't belong here. I must take care of other business. Huh? Are you thinking of leaving? You can't. The people expect you to stay. They even talk about kicking me out of office. You can't desert me in my hour of need. I'll lose face if you leave now. Please, please, you gotta stay. I'm sorry, big brother, but my destiny lies with my friends. You'll have to sort out your problems by yourself. The Norlanders won't trust you until you can prove you can rule with a fair hand. No more false promises, no more. You're truly leaving? But where will you go? We're off to Sordis Kingdom. We have mysteries to solve. Sordis? But what about Border Pit? Oh no, you had to turn back into Rockfall, right? Yes, and there was no way to clear it. Welcome home! Great. Well, clearly there has to be some way to get through it. Otherwise, the game would just end right here. And while an anticlimax like that, to me, I do find humorous in concept that you don't do a game like that unless it's like a joke ending. Which, man, now it makes me think of what if Trails games had Yoko Taro-esque joke endings, and I kind of want that. That could be funny. Most of these Marines don't have a lot to say outside of updating you what's going on throughout Norland. It's 4 of them towards the bottom that have a lot of stuff we want to pay attention to. In fact, I think this next one's the first one I really want to notice. Only 4 you going to Sordus, huh? Dang, you better ask Sergeant Murphy downstairs for some advice. He's smart. The city hospital's been packed with survivors since the monsters cleared out of here. Old Doc Paulson's real busy. Prince Evan, I've heard of a genius inventor in Sordus. Prince Evan, have you heard of the Desert Bazaars of Sordus? Wanderers sell many valuable goods there. You can buy whatever your heart desires. Sergeant Murphy told me all about it. If you go to the border pit, you'll see an ancient water door that stands open. No one knows why it's there. Probably comes into play in the sequel in some regard. Did you know that Prince Hans bought all the money from Count Listens? The treasury's overflowing, but Hans is in charge. Prince Evan, listen to this one. Sir Hans is said to be in love with a young woman in Sordus, Princess Micah. I think this is the first time we've heard of a princess in the entire game. And while we're here, we might as well go talk to Ethan's other brother. I do find it kind of weird that Ethan calls both of his brothers Big Brother when visibly he looks to be the eldest if you look at his start of game opening portrait versus the ending portrait versus his sprite. Oh, I went through that too quickly. Sordus is a land of dragons. I heard they even raise them on farms. Wouldn't that be something to have your own dragon? How can they do it? Sergeant Murphy knows more. Be sure to check with him. My dear Evan, I've heard you're off to Sordus Kingdom. When you see the Princess Micah, tell her I send all my love. Sure, gotcha. Also, we can now get some magic here. The repel spell, which is reflect. The next leech level. The more important thing is the slow haste and whatever the third one was, levels. That's what my spell lists are looking like, in case you're curious at this point. If you're playing along, you probably are. So let's go talk to Murphy. We have to take a little bit of a roundabout route from the outside of the castle. One of the only times they make you do this in the game. There you are, Sir Evan. Going to Sordus, I hear. I met a desert trader from those parts. He told me about a demon plague they got out there. The Royal Army wants to capture and destroy the demon leader, but they haven't had any luck. Word is there are spies sent by a Dark Lord named Naja. What a nightmare, they can't figure it. We've heard a lot about this Naja recently today, haven't we? That's probably important in the long term. But for now, let's just get out through Darkheim and talk to some of the people around here. Most notably, though, we do want to explore Darkheim town itself because the next plot beat we need to do is here. Also, for some reason, as you'll see, a lot of the NPCs in this town are named after Flintstones characters for some reason. I think there's also a similar theme with the priests here in Norland. I think they're all named after writers or something of that nature because of the Asimov one being there. Importantly, though, you can also buy an interesting piece of equipment here at the Armorer. You can get the Doom Blades and all the Doom set if you want to, but the Curing Robe is interesting because it casts Cure 3 on you when you use the Defend command. However, like the previous robes, basically has no defense, so not worth it to use in my opinion. You probably could buy it, then swap it onto your active equipment if you're getting low on HP, but it's not really my thing. Sir Evan, I got medical supplies if you need some. We can buy medicine for Morgan at this hospital. Even though it's a bit lonely, he's not such a bad guy. It's true, we stayed at his place in Red Pier. Hey Doc, we want to buy some of that heart medicine. Oh, and I skipped past it a bit quickly, but it's 1,000 gold per. You want to buy 3 bottles of this. You only need 1 technically for plot progress, but if you want to get everything in the next area, you're going to want 3. I bought 4 because for some reason I thought you needed the first one to give him and then the 3 extras for reasons. So now we're good to head over to Skull. Well, I can't remember the latter half of the name. Skull Rock. And give those to him because, you know, we might as well. It looks like maybe giving him heart problems just from having his mom here.
Oh, you fools, I'm in pain. Can't you do anything right? I want medicine. The pain, yikes, you... Giles, what's that you've got?
Sorry to keep you waiting, old boy. You after this?
Shiver me timbers, the medicine! Hand it over.
Of course, Captain. We brought it for you.
Ah, this stuff is the greatest. Where'd you steal this from?
We picked it up in Darkheim.
Darkheim? That place is crawling with reavers. Or has something happened I ain't heard about? You got it. There's not a single monster left in Norland. Well, I'll be keel-hauled. That'll pick up business. I'm going straight to Darkheim to find out what's going on. Evan, you and your friends have done a bit of slick work. So what's your next move?
Well, I wanted to go to Sordis, but the border pit's blocked. Well, you see the problem. It's Drax I'm after. We haven't seen him since Windguard. We don't know where he's gone. I'm sure Drax came to Norland. King Magnus told us the cave-in at the pit was a big surprise to him, blocking his escape to Sordis. So it happened while we were on our way here. That's right, and Drax came here just before then. He must have caused the cave-in to seal the route. So he's in Sordis. He must be. We've got to follow him.
Sounds like you mean to get through the border pits.
Yeah, if only we had some explosives or something. Captain Morgan's face breaks into a rich grin.
Just look to yours truly, that nitro medicine. We pirates use it to make explosives too. I'll tell my man to whip some up.
Can you do it?
Well, as in exchange, you understand. A bottle of medicine for each charge.
A bottle for each? You old pirate. Do we have any choice?
You'll get blasters from my bomb man.
Thanks, Morgan. So this is why I got 3 of them. We need 3 bits of nitro to actually get bombs. Come up here to this guy to actually get the bomb. So you're doing business with the captain, huh? These blasters are tricky. Watch it. It's ready, man. And we get a blast start. We need to get 3 of those. And to do that, we need to take 1 nitro over to Captain Morgan, and then take it to then go to the blast guy to get it. And that about wraps up the plot line here in Norland. After this, we're technically in the Sordis section of the game, which, yeah, it's probably overall my favorite portion of the game, story-wise. I don't know why. Chapter 4 just hits that right note in my brain that reminds me a lot of, like, Dragon Quest 1 and 3 in particular. Because by and large, this game is more plot-focused than your average Final Fantasy until 4, or even most of the Dragon Quest games until, well, 4 or 5 again. And there's something about this chapter in particular that really drives that in for me. With that said, let's access the border pit. You could come here earlier, but you'd be blocked off eventually, and I'm not even sure if there's monsters here from memory now that I think about it. With that said, it is very dark in here, and I might even recommend having 2 torches for this place because it's big enough to the point where 1 torch might actually run out. At least if you're trying to get all the chests. Because you can't even get every chest on the initial walkthrough. We actually technically need to backtrack through it from the end of the dungeon. With that said, whenever you see a wall like this is where you use a blast dart. There are 3 of these doors to break, hence why we needed 3 nitros. And in here we get a moon spear. That's going to be the next set of equipment for people, the moon set, and we're going to give that to Logan because I guess at this point he's kind of lagging behind compared to other people. Doesn't really matter. Because there's no monsters here, though, because this is technically part of Norland, this dungeon is almost negative threatening. You could easily come in here without a torch and just brute force your way, bumping into every wall until you find the way out. And in some ways I could recommend that, because you might want to save a torch for one of the later dungeons that's a bit larger. But it's not really worth doing that all the same, because you're just wasting more time at that point. There's blast dart number 2 used, only 1 to go, and I think that's the last one you actually need to use, so you need 2 of them to get through the dungeon. Now you might notice there's a couple of chests we've seen, but we can't actually reach them because of all the water. Well, you might remember earlier this part, a water door may have been brought up. Here's where it is. The water door slams shut, and this is going to make the rushing water slow and stop. And it's going to completely change the water layout in this room and the prior room. So the reason you actually might run out of torch here is you want to go back through all the prior rooms and find the chests you can now get, because you have more armor, and in particular the last major accessory in the game throughout these areas. With that said, you can still leave the dungeon in either direction by doing this, and it will save that. So if you want to go back and get the last blast dart in case you only got 2 for some reason, you can, and then just come all the way around here, use this one here, and get access to the biggest reward in this area. Because at the end of this side pathway, we come to the ultimate reward. The aforementioned accessory, the luck ring. This boosts the luck of the user by 50. meaning they're going to be hitting a lot more often and dodging more attacks. I'm giving that to Ethan because, like, I think I mentioned this already. Logan's kind of a mixed attacker this LP. Ethan's my mixed tank and caster. Sonya's the caster. Giles the speed hitter. Not quite evade tank, but he can dodge things pretty regularly, I guess. But now we're done here in the border pit, so we can head on over to the Sordus Kingdom by going back to the lever and then proceeding to the east. And after that, we just kind of have to explore parts of Sordus to find out where to go. Compared to most regions in the game, they place the exit very ambiguously here, where you can explore a bit. There's not a direct town. And we also got man-apes. Very high HP, very high power enemies that are here to do damage and do it quick. They don't got a lot of defense, so their HP can drain pretty quickly, but be careful of them all the same, because if you, say, have slower characters, you might have some problems. Plus, they can also lower some of your stats, as you just saw. The enemies in this section of the game do pick up quite a bit in difficulty. I'd say overall this is probably the hardest section of the game when it comes to just the outright enemy jump, even compared to, like, the Prowlers back near Nigel. Here we got Berserkers and Firebird. Berserkers are more or less the same thing as the Man-Apes, high damage, high HP. But they're there to get their damage in quickly. I've already forgotten the name of the moth. The Firebird is a little weird in that it can do some status ailments, but it doesn't get much of a chance to do that. The enemy you want to look out for around here and avoid it if you can by running away is the Raker, which is this giant blue bird. I genuinely forget if we run into one by the time we're done here, but from my practice runs, avoid it as best as you can. So I'm coming up here into the desert portion of Sordus, not to actually, like, enter the town here, because I was frankly a little lost at this point. I had forgotten where I was meant to go for a second. I am going to enter just to put it into my Warp 2 dictionary, but I'm immediately going to leave and head for our actual next destination. This is the town of Oasis. We'll be doing stuff here later. So let's get elsewhere. Ooh, more new enemies. Petal Maws. These guys are probably the easiest enemies in the area. Lower defense. They can do some damage, and I think they might be able to venom you, but not a lot to worry about. Even with my levels, they're nothing at this point. And here's Havelock. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 7, we're going to explore Havelock and then go more in-depth exploring Sordus, now that we've reached the area finally. See you guys then.